Hello, everybody. Let's exit to port. It is currently Tuesday, the 20th of August at 13:44 Central European summertime. It's still summer, but it's somewhat cooler than last time we recorded, and I'm okay with that. At least up here. I don't know what it's like in the Bavarian mountains in Germania. Grumbles, of course, being the resident Germanian. Germanian? Is Germaniac? I don't. What do you?
It depends which day of the week. But either works.
Either works. Okay.
Yeah.
How you doing? It's good to have
I'm
you.
doing good, thank you. I'm in Hessen before I get a complaint from Mari accusing me of being in Bavaria while she's not there. But yes, it's cooled off considerably. It's very humid. It's still summer temperatures, but it's like normal.
It's
now.
normal summer temperatures, yeah.
Yeah, rather than like, what is this? Why do I live in the desert all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Or Texas, or both. So yeah.
Desert dwarfs. That's a cool concept that we should think about for future references. But yeah, no. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. We are severely unmotivated today. Let's just get that out there because I'm right there. And we talked about it in the editorial meeting.
Hey.
That we're both just kind of, yeah, whatever, man.
I'm just gonna add, it's not specific to the podcast.
No. By all means.
We're just having one of those days where it's like we both connected up and we're like, "Hi, how's it going?" And both of us were like, it's a day.
we're here.
Yeah. And I was super unmotivated today. Everything's I'm on the struggle bus.
Yeah.
But just to clarify, not with our recording for you lovely folks.
No, we do very much enjoy putting this podcast together. So and it is a nice, it's a very nice kind of rendezvous for us. I feel, and once a month get to sit down and just chat like this. It's very nice. It is.
Yeah.
And I'm just also gonna get this out of the way. I will not be try-harding the segues today. I just want to point that out. There's not gonna be smooth segues today. There's gonna be jump cuts, pretty much. That's where I'm at right now. But we do have some good technical news, which should now enable us to have a more balanced audio. Yeah, you guys don't need to worry about that, but hopefully it'll shine through in the audio of this podcast.
Nice.
We're just gonna jump straight into recently played games because both of us have picked up some old favorites. And I'm just gonna start with mine. I've been going back to Sweden and fighting with some cantankerous, murderous robots, and it's been so much fun. I'm talking about Generation Zero, and it's one of my favorite games out there. And just story-wise and cooperational-wise. And it's made by Systemic Reactions, who also make Call of the Wild, The Hunter, and The Angler. So it's set in that same engine. And then they've just kind of taken that to the max and made a glorious survival-ish kind of game. No, but they've updated. They've kept up with content, and it's just really cool. It's just really cool. So yeah, going out there fighting big robots who are super angry and stompy it's always fun. And yeah, doing that together with Mr. Skype Cthulhu, of course. But we've also been joined by friends of the community, Kartenbrot, and my moderator, Mr. Andretos. And it's just it's just a nice little game to cooperate in. Yeah, you know, you just go out there, you shoot some robots in the face, you get an achievement, you get a new gun. It's a shiny gun. It goes boom. You know, it's that sort of thing. I'm really enjoying it. It's oddly like there's a certain catharsis happening. I guess I can say. And have you looked at Generation Zero?
I have a little bit from afar, but haven't taken the plunge yet. But it's I get the gist of it, and it's nice to hear that you're having fun cleansing Sweden.
it has like with the setting being in the 80s. It is a kind of okay. I was born in 85. Cthulhu was born in 83. Was he? Or is he older than that? Doesn't matter. Like we're both children of the 80s, and so going to Sweden in that kind of time period, and seeing the different commercials and just how like the aesthetic of the land and everything, it's just it calls to us. And of course, you know, the added bonus of shooting the Swedish robots is did I say that out loud? No, it's real nice, and I can fully recommend it as a cooperative game with 3 other friends.
Sounds awesome. Yep.
Speaking of cooperative games, how's Clanfolk cooperating? Fucking yes,
Clanfolk's been
sorry.
Nice. That was great actually. For legal reasons. Yeah. He's not trying. He's just succeeding anyway. Just really enjoyed it because I hadn't played it in quite a long time, and they added some really, really fun content like you can build bridges out of different materials now, and they've added a whole load of like vegetables and different things to cook and whatnot, and shuffled a few a few of the things in the tech tree around and that, and it's just a fun, relaxing game. It's like RimWorld, except everything isn't trying to kill you.
I was just gonna ask about that. Like, if you compare it to RimWorld, like where does it stand on the scale of okay, this is how hard something is, or like where would you place it in the gaming world of the sense of this is really hard, or like where would you place it?
I would say that it definitely has a learning curve for new players. However, the crux of it is it kind of plays in 2 parts. The first part is let's not starve and die of lack of water and warmth in winter. And that part is quite hard. It's quite the scale because there's lots and lots of things to do, lots of things to unlock, lots of gathering to be done, and so forth. So that and a mixture of gathering and working with the environment combined with using utensils and tables and things progresses you through the tech tree. So you kind of have to do like a little bit of everything. And because the game is sort of charming and relaxing, ironically, that adds to some of the complexity or the difficulty for the player because you've got to remember, oh, but hang on a minute, it's halfway through autumn or something, and winter's around the corner, and we haven't got any furs, and we don't have any food stored up, and that kind of thing. So, and there's a few like missteps you can make, like you can get into certain things, like for example, you can put up a vacancy sign, which allows you to then unlocks a job board. And a job board is really helpful because you can bring people in if you have the coin, or you can sell items to make the coin to traders, which is a different board. And that extra pair of hands can really get you prepared for winter or get that gathering done that you need done, or, whatever it is you're prioritizing. But things like the vacancy board, if you leave that enabled, then people turn up from other clans and want to say, oh, this is a nice little clan, quaint little house, cool. Oh, look, you've got some food, and they'll just like eat you out of house and home. So there's like a few little gotchas like that where it's kind of obvious because of what you're doing, But especially when you're new to the game or you haven't played for a long time, you're like, you're like, where's all my food gone? And it's like, oh, wait, we just had 2 visitors here from a neighboring clan and they've left now with all our food kind of thing, you know? So yeah, so the first part of the game in year 1 and getting through that first winter is quite challenging unless you kind of really have. They've actually made it a little bit more comfortable, I think. Although there were certain things that were possible in the game right from the start, they just weren't in your face obvious or whatever. Or they weren't the way I'd chosen to play. So you get a little bit nerve wracking towards winter when it gets super cold and the food starts to really dry up. And they've added some nice threats. So if you had things like cattle or sheep, whatever, there's wolves in the game, and so you've got to watch out for your livestock, and that turns into like, well, you know, also the cold will be a threat to your animals too. So you know, do they have a barn? Is the barn heated? And what kind of materials? And of course, my old nemesis, fire, can be an issue too. And I think we had 2 or maybe 3 fires this go around. So even though I was being careful, so. But then the second part of the game is like, well, once you've got into year 2 and you've got yourself established, then you start looking to branch out, do some farming maybe, or create nicer materials, create nicer homes, things like procreating, so the adults having babies and things, or marrying off your people into other clans, or marrying another clan's person into yours, that kind of thing, all become more relevant and more prominent as time progresses. And then it's kind of, you know, it's up to you then how you want to manage it. You can still get yourself in trouble. You can still have fires. There's also things like thunderstorms now with lightning, and the lightning can set wildfires, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, stuff like that. And there were a few things that surprised me because I've sort of half kept up with the patch notes, but not like every single thing. So, for example, suddenly beavers turned up living in some of the riverways and the waterways near my clan. I was like, holy cow, there's beavers here. So, you know, you get these nice little adaptations and additions over time. So it's nowhere near. It's like RimWorld on most casual sort of settings. It doesn't necessarily have that full depth. Like if you played it 5 years or whatever, I'm sure people have done it, and I'm kind of tempted to do it too. But there's always that feeling of like, okay, but the challenge element is kind of dampened once you've got through year 2 or certainly into year 3. So it's then about how do you manage it? How do you want to progress? What do you want your clan to sort of achieve? There are other elements like your standing with other clans and the happiness of your people and stuff like that. So there's definitely ongoing challenges, but they're not to the same degree of year 1 where it's like, well, I hope everybody doesn't die.
Yeah, because I'm guessing it has a bit more of a severity to the survival element of it, and less raiding party coming to eat your face or to sell your liver, Jarek. So yeah, I guess they kind of have to balance it out that way. But yeah, okay, nice. So but you mentioned these other clans coming in and eating you out of house and home. It's a bit of a kinder raiding party, but you know, it's still raid party-esque, I guess.
Yeah. So what I mean, what the game does, to put it more succinctly, it lulls you into a sense of security in that, okay, I think we can branch out or do a few things or have some guests over, or, you know, buy some chickens or something. What could possibly go wrong? And then the whole chain of events starts to kick in of like, well, they need feed, they need looking after. If it's winter and they get cold, they might go off wandering looking for food or whatever, or water, and they might collapse and start dying and things. And so you've got to go and like send someone out to go and get them. And if you send someone out to go and get them, that might take like half a day for the rescue mission. So they're not like chopping the wood that you need to keep the fire warm at night. So it's like, yay, they rescued the chicken. Oh no, everyone's freezing to death at night because we got no firewood. So you get into those kind of juggling acts.
Right.
Yeah. Again, maybe not like super difficult in a sense of like RimWorld will just come and like mess your stuff up because it wants to. But depending again what levels and settings you're playing on, but definitely you get more lulled into, you know, one of my classics is like I give them 500 jobs to do. Go on, off you go, And then I'm like, why are they not chopping wood to keep the fires warm in winter? It's like, well, maybe because you asked them to build like a second village so you can have guests over next summer.
Grumbles, do you know what
Mhm.
you are?
What?
You are the inattentive middle management guy. You don't pay attention to the needs of your team.
What?
Yeah, you give them
So
too
not
many
true.
tasks.
That's so not true.
Why?
Maybe when I play video games, okay?
How have you not survived the winter? Well, you told us to build a castle.
I mean, I didn't need to give you those tasks. Those were obvious. You should have known by now that you needed to do that. Come on, team, think for yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I know all too well. That is part of the struggle of these games, though. That
Yeah.
it is like
Yeah.
the prioritization of need to, want to, they do thinking forward, future proofing, all that sort of thing. It all plays in together, and it is part of that challenge, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yep.
It's very cool.
I think it's super fun, and I especially wanted to bring it up on here because it's one of those where it gets overshadowed by some other games for various other reasons. I mean, obviously, RimWorld is the OG, and it's way deeper, and and all the other things that RimWorld does. But this is a very, very relaxing, fun experience. It's on the Hooded Horse, who are awesome as well, and it's one of those where they released in July 22. We're in July 24, just past it, so it's 2 years old, and it's kept developing, kept delivering, kept that kind of heartwarming center to it, whilst adding really a lot of content. I think relatively for I think as a solo developer as well, kind of thing, or certainly a very small team, if not one person. Yeah, and I just think it's really charming. It's worth a look because it gets no negative element to this in things like Mana Lords or whatever, but it doesn't get necessarily all the fanfare. But I just think it's just really charming and chill and enjoyable if you want that kind of management, colony management kind of experience.
Indeed. Clanfolk, check it out, everybody. You mentioned colony management. One thing that kind of started out as a government, what should we say, learning tool to learn about governing and everything was Eco. Eco has now had its update 11 recently.
Yep.
And it just kind of dropped on us out of nowhere. And that is a game that I fully enjoy, and I want to play more. But like we've talked about before, both of us thoroughly enjoyed StatsBloke's summer vacation stream, holiday home, whatever we want to call it, where it was a solid mix between both content creators and RPers and people who play the game to play the game. Recently, you've joined Bodus on his super slow burn eco event, and
I haven't joined that, but
sorry, StatsBloke has joined and Lima has joined, but we've both witnessed what they've done there.
Yes,
and it's a super kind of like hearing people talk about it is this is the way to do eco, because it's almost impossible to power game. And I love that idea. I love that you can power game it. And to give an idea of what they did, like I think update 10 was the one who where they introduced the culture thing. Where it just turned into one of those, we're going to use this as a weapon almost.
Yeah.
And got super power gamed suddenly.
Yeah.
Now they've introduced an event called Socialism versus Capitalism. I got an invite about 3 weeks ago, and I didn't have time to join it. But and then right before they started that, they kind of dropped, here's update 11, by the way. And I was like, holy shit, what's going on? Why? Hello? I love this, but what? You know? It's a bit short term for us streamers to jump on something like that. But they've added so many things. And I love the fact that they keep on working on it. They keep on expanding it. Because for us who love a bit of roleplay, they have expanded a lot and given us way more tools to play around with. You joined the socialism versus capitalism event for a couple of days.
Yep.
And that's an official server. That's not a roleplay server.
Yep.
Talk to me about the challenges of doing that.
So the challenges of doing that are you want to have I love role playing in that game so very much, and I'm doing so anyway. Not in a like belligerent screw everyone else, but just like let's see if people reciprocate, cool, and if not, well, we just chill and do that. And some of the challenges are like for me, I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable because some people will be like, "Oh, hey man, I'm just trying to enjoy playing eco," or whatever. So the good news is that the people, the community, all the players and that, and the people, we were allowed to bring in a number of like invited people with us as well. And it's been overwhelmingly positive. People are enjoying the new update. The way they set this server up, it's kind of super slow in terms of the gaining the stars and progressing your character. So what it's doing is it's more than I thought it would. I thought, honestly, my view was, okay, we'll jump on here for a couple of days, maybe half and half it with some Atlas RP or whatever at the weekend, and it'll probably be a good laugh, but it'll be an official server, so it'll quickly turn into one of those for want of a better word, like power gaming, not in a super negative way, but just like, let's rush, get to the end, get to the next deck, that kind of thing, which happens a lot in eco, especially on the official servers. Again, not knocking it, it's just the way it is. So I was sort of worried that would happen, but actually the way they've got it running super slow has effectively forced everyone, and also, I don't know if this was deliberate or accidental as part of the world generation, seems to have generated like nowhere near enough food. So one of the things with eco is you need a lot of calories in order to do a lot of tasks, whatever they may be, whether it's making something at a table, whether it's plowing a field, whatever, or even just running around. And I'm a buffoon and I run everywhere, and running burns like 10 times as many calories. I have to remind myself to walk and not run. But anyway, and I don't know if that was like part of the design, because what they want is they've got this versus like capitalism versus socialism, but there is a meteor, and the meteor hits in like 17 days from the start or something, or 16 days. So we've got 2 weeks to try to get to a level of technology where we can do something about the meteorite, or the world floods, or some catastrophe happens because it hits, or we create in the rush, we create our own. And the idea being that the sort of premise that the socialism team will be all about cooperating highly together and supporting one another to get to the end goal, and possibly having to liaise and negotiate and work with the capitalists where they can. And then the capitalists are more like, well, go for it. Power game your way through it, bring your own teams together, but essentially every person for themselves, And it's funny because, like, I don't know if it's I think it's a mixture, but it started really, really, really playing out exactly that way. Like, it's really obvious how the capitalists are behaving, and it's really obvious how the socialists are behaving and like really helping each other. Just by like, I haven't actually had time. I'm going to try and do this tomorrow when I'm back on. Go and have a look around their country and see what they've been developing, and meet some of the people and stuff like that in the typical Ivan way. But from the reports I've heard of others that have gone there, they're like, man, it's a complete mess over there. It's literally the thing of everyone doing their own thing. So there's not a lot of collaboration, not a lot of roads, not a lot of, you can sort of see and feel that people aren't supporting each other.
Now, not to make this political, but that's all I'm going to say about that.
It's just interesting. So but yeah, and the way it's worked for us has been like it's been really refreshing, and surprisingly like so positive. Um, More on that later, but I'm really surprised, but like happily surprised at how well everybody's kind of clubbed together. And also shout out to Damien, to Who's Gaming Now, because he's put in so much hard work and time in communicating and just connecting all the teams up to one another, and trying to just get them helping each other. And like, well, we can't just have like 50 cooks and everyone's cooking the same meal and no one's, who's making milling or stuff like that. So he's got people sort of thinking within the concepts of the game, and sort of RPing it out with them as well in a light RP friendly way, and people like really responding to it really well and being like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So well, what if our engineers gave you some tools so you could like make some roads and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun, and I still think the world's gonna flood and it'll end terribly, but it'll probably be a good laugh and make for great content,
Yeah.
But yeah, they've brought in some great things. What they've done with this update 11, because I think is really worth mentioning, is they've added a new tier 1, like your first tier of building, which doesn't really buff you and help you get on. It actually does a little bit. I thought maybe I misread it. I thought it was like you don't get any kind of housing buff, but actually if you do it properly, you do. They've made it's really nice. The set is really well put together, really polished, and it enables you to kind of like, build with some minimal resources, a bit of mud and a bit of sticks, and off you go. And that's nice. But what they also did is they added outdoor spaces, where if it's on your like marked property, you can gain points for that towards culture and the development of your settlement.
Okay.
And things. And to go with that, they made something that I was kind of crying out for so much. I'm sure I wasn't the only one. But they made water features like fountains of different shapes and sizes, some little ponds that you can put in decoratively, and they fit snugly into the ground. And you can put tables and chairs and lanterns around them or whatever. So you got these, and they actually count. So rather than be just purely for an aesthetic, they actually help your progression and stuff. So people have an incentive to like, even if they don't stop building square block houses, some of them, although most people will give it a good go at least. There's a lot of box magic still. You're dealing in a game that is about building with blocks, so it's difficult. To an extent, and but being able to put these outdoor spaces together, and that is just a really big step forward, I think, and it'll become very appealing to a wider audience and everything. And it's just great to see that there's a development team of like listen to these, because it wouldn't necessarily been the core thing that they were going to go for or anything, but just taking that feedback on board from the community and the contributors in the community team as well. It's really positive to see that change, and it makes the game feel so much more like alive and fun to be in, rather than just having nose to the grindstone and only doing the things you need to do for mechanics.
So I will say this: they might not be the most communicative dev team, but they do show that they care and that they listen to what's being said by both content creators and the people who play their game. Because these sorts of things is something that we've asked for and wanted for a long time, and it's really great to see that happening. And every time I see an eco event, I'm like, I really want to get started again and play that again, but I need more people to play with, not just play it on my own. And the slow burn event is one of my favorites, because and I know we've talked about this whole collaborative way of doing things, where like screw economy. You don't need economy if people can go around and be like, oh, well, you need a road. I can build a road. You make food. I need food to make a road. Let's work together on this. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like, oh, and I should have had this for my table. It would have made even more food. Well, I know a guy, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and it's at the point with this one now where people are just and again, for a non-role play setting per se, even though we brought quite a few people who are familiar with role playing and enjoy doing it as well, just seeing so many people from like all over the world just come together and work together. Yeah, it's giving away the game a little bit on my on the end of the podcast for me, but it's just really heartwarming to experience.
I want to see more of Eco, and we're gonna do more of Eco. That's guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're gonna move on to other games that are on the horizon for us. And Eco has many roles and stuff, and amongst them are you'll find blacksmiths where they need to do their thing. And one game that is coming up under the oversight of Hooded Horse is Blacksmith Master, which I think was featured on the Steam Next Fest.
Yep.
I played around with it. Did you get to play around with it?
Yeah, I had to go at the demo.
I had a lot of fun with it. I genuinely think this is going to be a winner. And it's coming out soon. It's coming out end of September. 26th, I think we said. Or something. I don't know. It's coming out soon.
Yep.
And we're looking forward to it because it's one of those games where you get to both do hands-on, but you can also go full management if you want. Like it is a management game by all means, but you also get to do some hands-on stuff with your character, and I think it's great.
26th of September.
There you go. There you go. No, it's a great little game, and I'm looking forward to streaming it because I genuinely think this is one of those games that I will fully enjoy streaming and like building up a little shop collaboratively with people in chat. Like, oh, do we want this? Do we want to build this area? Where should we put this? You know, and the learning process of kind of seeing, okay, having this layout completely failed. Let's start over. Let's build something new. You know, and just kind of learn together on that. So Blacksmith Master is genuinely cool. Or like, I think can you rename people? You couldn't do that in the demo, at least as far as I know. But it would be cool to be able to name people after people in the stream. Yeah,
I don't know. But it's kind of one of those that almost feels like it would benefit from a Twitch integration. Like, do you know Playtop, the hectic cooking game?
Yes.
Yeah, so where your viewers can like come into the restaurant and then say like #1, number 1 on the menu kind of thing.
Yeah,
it'd be kind of cool if they could come in and see like, this is what the blacksmith can create at the moment. So I want to order 2 swords or something like that. That it's not that kind of like immediate hectic kind of game, but I could imagine a little bit of integration similar to that somewhere down the line.
Now that you mentioned Twitch integration, I actually have to very quickly just mention to the people at Hooded Horse that this might be a good idea.
Yeah, but the game itself is very cozy. I enjoyed the demo. Like you said, the choosing to change the layouts around or whatever. I tried to create like an outdoor relaxing garden area where it also coincidentally had a shop to sell my wares or something, or a display stand or something like that.
Yeah,
and it's just pretty cool. It's nice that you could let your mind run a little bit and not go you know, or you can go the other end of it and go like super sweaty and there's five forges next to each other and one person assigned to each one and all that kind of thing. So you can do it whichever way you know makes you happy. It is
a wonderful game that I am truly looking forward to playing more with. It's yeah. hopefully they will listen to us and try to make some sort of Twitch integration.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another game on the upcoming horizon that I'm thoroughly looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
But that is also because I am a fan of gratuitous violence sometimes, at least within the confines of a video game. Well, I mean, nobody in the grimdark is gonna have fun no matter what. And Warhammer 40k Spacemarine 2 is coming out soon, and it looks gorgeous. It looks gorgeous. It sounds fun, and if they give me a co-op experience in that, oh lordy, lordy, I've been looking forward to something like this in a proper Space Marine setting that is like for so long, because they have Vermintide from Warhammer Fantasy, where you kind of like wave defense kind of thing. You have Darktide set in the 40k setting, but nothing where you're actually a Space Marine getting to wade your way through all of these waves of enemies and just feeling like you're the absolute king of the mountain, where you can just use your chainsword to just go through masses and masses of these xenomorphs and heretics and whatnot. It's just, yeah. Looking forward to it. How are you for shooters?
I'm not particularly enamored with them, but what I can enjoy sometimes is when you get that cooperative experience, you know, when it's really like, I've got your back, you've got mine. I've seen some of the other things that were similar, where it was quite dependent on like somebody's the tank, somebody's the DPS or whatever, and those roles actually complement each other. Like everyone's getting in trouble in the harder areas or busier swarms and stuff like that, and it makes a difference if people are communicating and on point together or not. So I'm not like typically looking for that experience of like loads of stuff just rushing at me the whole time and adrenaline going and you know, and all that kind of thing. I don't mind it in short bursts, but I got, you know, Cringer and Arcard are trying to twist my arm and be like, hey, come and play Space Marine with us. I'm like, nah. And they're like, well, what's it going to take to get you to play Space Marine? I said, well, if you get me a key, I might play it, I suppose, if I can play it for free and showcase it. And then I got the sarcastic kind of like, oh, I see. You don't want to play with us, but if we get you something for free, you'll come and play. I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm sure there could be some shenanigans in that game for me. But I just watching the video in that, it looks amazing, like what they've done, like graphically, and I don't know much about I know very cursory level of like some of the lore and that, but really minimal. So, but it looks very authentic, and I would imagine that if I was into that more deeply, I would be quite excited about how it looks and everything. So yeah, we'll see what happens there, whether I do end up giving it a go. But I think it's 3-player co-op. These games often are. They could be super fun. I'd probably be the guy like screaming for help all the time, but that's okay too, in small doses, I guess. But certainly from the graphics and all, it's like Warhammer in total, and the 40k stuff is something that I don't know why I've always been intrigued by it and kind of wanted to, and just never gotten around to it or had people around me that are super into it. So I've just never kind of had that nudge to go in and look a little bit more at it. But like in theory, it looks kind of amazing. I like that kind of sci-fi, science, fantasy type stuff. But I guess maybe because it's also very, very grim.
Yeah.
Might be an element that I don't think it puts me off consciously, but it might subconsciously be like, I don't need that darkness right now.
All you need to know about the grim dark is everybody's racist.
Okay.
You're
not selling it to me.
There are no good guys.
None. Okay.
There are no good guys. You might think the Space Marines are the good guys. No, they're
Yeah.
not.
I thought they looked really cool when I was a bit younger, and I was like, wow, this looks quite amazing. And then I kind of was like, but okay, it might be out of necessity or something, but I started to get just the sort of hint intuitively of like, don't necessarily, they're more like evil stormtroopers, or
Yeah.
I'm not sure entirely that I mean, maybe it's partly not their fault because they've been bred for violence or whatever, and indoctrinated that way.
Yeah,
but...
let's not forget the brainwashing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of get that side of it as well. But it should be interesting.
That's why I kind of love the orcs in 40K, because they are in essence evil mushrooms. I'm not kidding. They are mushrooms.
Nice.
They are fungus.
Okay.
And then they just kind of evolve and become stronger the more someone believes in them. So there are actual orcs that are immortal because so many of the orcs believe in it.
Okay.
And yeah, orc magic is fabulous. So that, like, it's not a super serious setting if you just look to some of these, like, if you don't read the lore about the Space Marines and what they're doing, but rather read some of the things around the orcs, and you look into how things are actually working, kind of a fun little universe. But don't read too much in about what all the different.
I started
races
watching
want
a
to
YouTube video of explaining the Emperor and some of that stuff, and I was like, no, I don't think I can take this right now. I'm just gonna give this one a miss.
Yeah, no,
this is super dark.
That's kind of why I'm just sitting there and going, yeah, no, this is going to be a place for gratuitous violence and just splatter. That's all I'm going to enjoy it for. I'm not going to enjoy it for, this is the lore of this in this chapter. Rah, 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 rah. They're famous for their rah, rah, rah. Like,
yeah.
And then there's always going to be one that goes, yeah, but the salamanders, they're kind. No, they are the mercy of the Emperor, because they often use things like nuke it from orbit.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And they just kind of nuke an entire planet instead of trying to just weed out a tiny bit of the heresy that's on the planet. No, they just kind of blow the entire thing up quickly. Yeah. They're seen as merciful. Yeah. They're not.
We nuked them for their own good.
Yeah,
boss.
exactly. That's a bit where they're at. But yeah, Space Marine 2, they're going to have a lot of different chapters. They're going to have cooperative play, and I am looking forward to it, and I really want to play it. So if someone out there has a key, hi, hit me, TigersDen. Hit me up. Yeah. So normally when we sit down and we do this podcast, we go through the different list of things and topics from the gaming world and so on, and we found out this time around we don't really have a lot of big topics, and we don't have a lot of topics either. So stuff like topics from the gaming world is kind of empty. So right now I want to use this moment to say to our patrons and anybody listening, get your questions and comments in. We do enjoy talking about them, so yeah, and it might feature as a bigger topic instead of just a normal question.
Yeah, you got homework.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of the homework and bigger questions, what the hell are Twitch up to?
They're being twitchy in not in cool ways.
No, let me do this bit. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Unwanted feature.
Oh, come on in and disrupt what I was just doing with an audience.
Okay, so they've taken this whole collaborative streaming thing and ran with it. And when I say ran with it, I mean they ran headfirst into a wall. You mentioned in the editorial meeting that it might be one of those things where they've thrown money at development of something, and now there's a manager sitting there going, well, we have to get this done. We can't just scratch this. Yes. As a project manager, I want to point out you are fully allowed to terminate a project at any given moment if you see that you are only throwing good money at a bad project. Don't do that. Just kill it. Just say, no, we got to scrap it. Anyway, back to the topic. Why? Who said that this was a good idea?
Yep.
Let's give the people context, shall we? There is a new feature on Twitch for all streamers where you can invite guests. However, they also have a feature that me, being a streamer, I can look at my follower or the list of people I'm following who are other streamers, and while they're live, I can hit a button that says knock knock, pretty much inviting myself into their stream. What the hell? And in the collaborative corner of our dashboard, I had to go and actively remove the knock knock feature for channels I follow and other partners. Affiliates was not crossed off by default, but I had to go remove the others.
Yep.
I can then say that I want to work with people on my favorite list, and that there I have to manually add people in. I want to point that out. But the fact that I had to go remove stuff in order to not get a random knock knock from someone is just no. Bad Twitch.
Yep.
Stop it.
Yep. Something like that should be opt-in. So it should start off as, hey, we've added this feature. If you want to use it, you can click here and here. Here's the here's how to do that safely or whatever. Like even in the simplest form, if it's only you get a pop-up or a notification or something like that, even that when you're trying to, concentrate, put on a show or whatever, it's just super distracting. And the fact that it's kind of you're automatically opted into it, and it defaults, as you said, affiliates not, but all partners. That's like what, 60,000-70,000 people?
Yeah.
That could just click a button and potentially disrupt you. Or let's, for example, imagine, wouldn't it be hilarious if 5 streamers who knew each other all went, oh, let's go and knock some random people on Twitch to see who answers or whatever, Yeah. Yeah, bit just weird. I don't know. Zach, not Gary Busey, but Zach, his brother, Zach, put his usual really good like X posts about it, and he's the one that was initially hinting or made me think in that direction of like, why would they do this? And I think it's a general trend of like whatever they've been developing, and I get it. They're under pressure. They have never turned a profit ever, and they're still struggling and not getting to that either. So parent company will be, has got everything under probably tighter and tighter control or monitoring. And I get that, but then don't go around giving your partners anxiety or potentially a feature that could be disruptive for them. It's just not cool. It's not a smart move. So it's how they've implemented it. It's a cool idea and could be, I've not used it, but could be a super cool feature. But why do it like that?
I will say that the idea is cool, that you could potentially there's one streamer that I follow on Twitter that said, I actually love this idea. The fact that I can knock on a smaller streamer's door to say hi, meet some new people is amazing. or crashing into a friend stream without having to join their Discord voice chat, you all are missing the point. It's a step in the right direction. And gotta walk before you run, so everyone needs to stop hating life so much and appreciate the new features are being worked on and effort is being made. This negative energy bandwagon shit is annoying. It's like nothing people makes it's like nothing makes people happy anymore. Appreciate for what it is. And I will to a certain degree agree with this statement. The idea to be able to, instead of, I don't know, having the ability to kind of say, knock knock, hello, it me, and then throw a lot of people in someone's face, like having that as kind of a, I don't know if they're thinking about it as a raid or, like, honestly, I think you and me, we're gonna have to play around with it to see how it actually works. Because it, one part of it really terrifies me, but another part of me really wants to like this feature, you know, because it is a new feature and it does show that they are working on things. I want and should give Twitch credit there. It is very important. But yeah. Like,
yeah, I mean, again, it just comes down to the irony for me of a broadcast communication company, essentially what Twitch is, not broadcasting or communicating very well, and just doing stuff. I get the point and the sentiment of that person's post, but I would question, for example, so what if if this is somebody's job, or even if it's just their hobby, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, but like it's the same thing as, like, it feels to me like someone just knocking on your door and interrupting whatever you're doing. It's, it feels like that person's coming from a point where they don't have, an unwanted person knocking at their door, or disruptions in their life or whatever. And I can see their point in that, but we're not complaining about the fact that they're developing and trying to find ways to bring in innovative new technology in that, but they're spending a lot of time and money on things that they then just drop on us at short notice, or with little, at least effective communication, and then making it not like something that we can turn on or opt in for ourselves. I don't know what the thinking was behind that. Maybe the thinking was, well, a lot of new features come along and people would think they're cool or could make use of them, and don't get around to it because they're they're too busy, or they just miss that there's a feature there that they could turn on or whatever, right? But again, I would say, well, isn't that probably because you didn't communicate it to them, so they didn't understand it was there, or how to make best use of it, rather than, I don't think the better way forward is then suddenly turning random new feature ABC on, and saying good luck with that.
yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
there are a lot of people pushing back on Twitch's own post on Twitter for this, and I do very much understand the pushback, because what we streamers wanted was a multi-perspective streamer view on one and the same page, where we all kind of can share one window, like the old multi-stream or multi-view services that were out there, and where we can play together, contributing to viewer counts, chats, and everything, and just a collaborative feature, What we got was LinkedIn for Twitch, which is just like, I will say though, we are sitting on a lack of information why they have gone to this step. Twitch might see things in the background that we have no access to at all. But what we as streamers sit on, as opposed to what we're getting, is the actual words of what is it we want, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, yeah.
I mean, it's just not optimal in terms of how they communicate, and there is the deeper question of what they're developing and in what order and priority and at what costs and stuff like that. Like they're doing a lot of stuff in the DJ space right now, and some parts of that I think are pretty cool, and other parts of that I'm thinking the legal costs around this, putting this whole framework in place, the pitfalls that people could fall into with it and everything. And, you know, okay, I get it. The CEO likes to turn some discs every once in a while. So he's got a personal interest and passion about it. That's not a bad thing. Okay, cool. But what's that costing? How much, you know, in terms of like, I don't know. I guess somewhere in the background, as you said, there could be a big lucrative element to that, and maybe that's what they're seeing, like big online global concerts and DJ sets and stuff like that, bringing a lot more people in. And obviously, music, you know, invigorates people and gets people to maybe put their hand in their wallet and buy subs and stuff like that. So I can kind of see that, but again, it's just you're a big communication entertainment platform. And you're working in partnership with us, including affiliates or any streamers, to be honest. Because we do our bit and you do your bit, and then we collectively move forward and share the money and all that, and hopefully it works for everybody. So you just gotta let us know, and you gotta give us the opportunity to say yes or no to that. And I know that's difficult because it's millions of people all over the world, but it's also not that difficult because it's technology and everything has an on and off switch. So if you've already programmed in, if you look at the nuance and the 5 or 6 different levels and categories and things that they've programmed in, how much harder would it have been to just have a disable this feature or whatever? It's not, you know. So I think it's like how they communicate it so that it's more transparent of what it is and how it could be beneficial and give some good use cases. And these things are probably out there, but it's another one of those you've got to go looking for it and whatnot. And then just kind of like the way it feels forced on people doesn't feel healthy for us in terms of making it feel like a fair partnership, you know?
Yeah, it's like let's hope that this is pretty much still in early access, for the lack of a better term, and that they now listen to the pushback from most of the community, and say let's do this in a different way, right? So yeah, but for now, I suggest that you and me actually try to test it out just to see how it actually works. How badly interruptive is it? Is it interruptive at all? I've now added you to the favorite list, so you know, let's check it out one day.
Oh, okay.
And maybe we can report back on the next podcast that hey, this is actually great.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? We'll see.
That would be awesome if it was. Yeah.
Like let's aim low and potentially overshoot.
No, you can't set up a "that's what she said" like that on the podcast.
Of course I can.
No, not going for it.
Now that's what she said. Sadly. Anyway, we've whipped that horse, I think.
Yes.
Is this the whip sound? No. Know your role. Well, that's perfect because it is Know Your Role now. And we're going to talk about what's coming up on Sundays at some point in the near future, hopefully, at least. Would you care to share? Should I share? Should we share? Yeah, because we're sharing. The collaborative cooperative Sunday group that kind of grew out of playing Moria, and then started including Lima in our Moria group, and then suddenly that grew into Icarus with Doc has and Who's Gaming Now, of course, too, has turned around and went, hey, should we play D&D? And and we've decided that yes, we should play D&D. And we are aiming to become the next big actual play podcast thing, live stream thing. I don't know. I don't know what we're aiming to. I know we're aiming to have fun and entertain.
Yes.
And we are now going to be doing that in a tabletop role-playing session where I will be leading the people through their adventure as our resident DM. And we have Lima Zulu Tango. It's likely going to be playing something roguey. We have Doc Strangefruit, who might be playing something clericy.
Mm-hmm.
We have Who's Gaming Now, who's I'm not sure what he'll go for. I sense a cool character incoming there. And then we have Monsieur Le Dwarf over here, who's probably going to be playing some sort of caster, I have a feeling.
Yes. I'll be playing something fiery.
Something fiery. And we already have the name of the setting. I already have an idea of where I want to take these story arcs. And we are very much looking forward to showing this off. I'm trying now to not use too many things that we've done in Know Your Role in there, because that's something that I kind of want to keep for our patrons. But yeah, no, we've had our session 0. Very good session 0, I'd like to say.
Yep.
Very happy with the feedback that I got for my questions and everything. We went through pretty much all the major topics that we need to talk about in a session 0, like everything from how do we settle disputes to what do we not want to see, what do we want to see, when do we do the solo adventures, how do we do the solo adventures, and so on. And it was a very nice little talk. So when are we gonna create the characters?
Well, I kind of have mine all fleshed out in my mind from a starting position. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I think we had a look at tooling and different tool options we've got available to us. And I think the next step is like, okay, we're going to have a little session 0.5 or something and just check off stream, like, okay, if we use tools ABC or whatever, how does this look, and go through the characters and make sure everything's set up and we've understood each other and whatnot. And if that all works with looks good from a technological point of view, we will, I guess, we'll start looking for dates. Sorry, I had to cough.
Yeah, that's fine.
Of when we might want to start.
Yeah. And I kind of didn't get to tell you guys what I'm hoping to create for our audiences. Because I know a lot of our audiences, there's going to be people out there that are they're not familiar to the tabletop version of role playing. They're going to be very familiar to, Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights or such, the things going on screen, the very combat heavy part of it.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to now introduce people to the theater of the mind and what we can actually achieve when we're not bound by what the PC tells us is possible. And maybe get a few more people hooked on the thought of, you know what, maybe this could be cool to do. but do I know somebody else who might be playing? You know, and get them into thinking that way. And I'm hoping that we're able to light a few fires with our way forward. And I'm partially thinking this because I recently saw a video that popped up on an Instagram reel where is it John Barenthal, a guy who played he played Punisher in the recent Marvel Daredevil part. I think his name is John Barenthal.
Was he the guy in Walking Dead as well?
Yeah, he's played a lot.
That's that guy then. Yeah, does a podcast now. Yeah.
Yes, he does a podcast that is called Real Ones.
Yeah,
wonderful podcast. He recently had Deborah Ann Voll on it. Deborah Ann Voll, who played in Punisher. She played in Daredevil together with him, and she's fabulous. She's had so many roles. She is an avid role player herself, an established role player, and an established dungeon master. And she did a wonderful thing on his podcast, which I'm kind of hoping more people will do. And because they talked a bit about it, and then she was like, "Hey, do you want to play D&D?" And he was like, "Yeah, we can probably sit in." And she said, "No, right now. Do you want to play D&D?" Because he was asking questions. How does it work? Like, how do you play? And she did the normal thing that most of us would do. Yeah, you explain that you have the die, you have the rules that you can follow, but you don't have to follow the rules. You kind of explaining it very, very succinctly, very straightforward. But then she did that twist. Do you want to play D&D? And the way she then went on to explain it, which is something that I'm hoping we will be able to do, with maybe seeing, okay, here's a question in the audience, how does this work? And we can then pretty much turn to the audience, maybe not in the middle of a scene, but all of us are collaborative. We're all famous for how much we chat to our own community, and to be able to answer some of these questions would be great. But what she did was right there and then on the podcast, she was like, let's play. And then she set a scene by saying, okay, you have a bow on your back, you have a couple of swords on your hips, and suddenly you hear something. And then she described how a perception roll would work. And then she literally just asked him, what do you want to do? And suddenly, so John Barenthal, actor, of course, he jumped into it, but to see how his face changed from what's going on to, oh wait, I get to input, and then seeing, okay, what do I want to do? Right? You know, he actually started questioning, okay, how do I want to approach this? And then she described a whole scene, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous, and I'm hoping to maybe have even just a smidge of that to bring to our communities, and to new people coming in. Like, I'm hoping to be able to bring that little spark, and yeah, it's I'm very much looking forward to this. I am. How about you?
It's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be good fun. I haven't D&D'd as such for quite a long time now, because of other commitments and whatnot. So I'm very excited about the opportunity, and I've always kind of wanted to do. I've done a little bit of it, but not a lot, and with a very different sort of setting. I'd really like, the fact that we're going to do some sort of more traditional D&D, as it were. D&D is one of those things like tabletop role playing as an experience where I got into that very late, and I feel like it's had a huge impact on my life. In terms of just that feeling of like, you know what, it's fun to just make some stuff up and let your brain switch off and make stories up and tell stories together with people. Not in a way of like it was a taboo or anything, but just like almost like I kind of felt like something like this existed, but somehow I'd never done it, and And then I'd watched a few YouTube videos of people doing this and thought, okay, this is really cool. This actually exists. And then being like, I'll probably never be somebody that's doing this. To then suddenly like, oh, I'm doing this now. This is cool.
Mm.
So, and it changed my life in the sense of like, and I don't say that lightly, just in terms of being able to switch on different creative parts of the brain and then do that collaboratively with people and give each other the confidence and trust to be able to make some real fun out of that together. It's been a big thing for me because it takes a lot of confidence and trust to go in and role play and do things like that. It's not just a given necessarily. Like everyone should try it, but I totally understand and get it when people don't feel comfortable or confident to do it. I 100% get that because that's kind of how I start every roleplay experience in games and stuff as well. With the game, there's a degree where it's a bit easier because you have your avatar and everything is abstract, like visually. However, when you're streaming that, it's then comes back on you again because it's like, oh, but everyone can sort of see me or hear me at the very least, and I'm live, and if I mess it up or I get the accent wrong or whatever, or just my character does something stupid, you kind of living with that or living that live in the moment. But it's turned into the most amazing sort of set of experiences for me over, however many years it is now since I started, about 9 years, I suppose. 2015, I think I started on Roll20. So yeah, I'm hoping that we can, as you said, also have a lot of fun, create a lot of laughs and smiles, and also show people, that whilst you might have your own anxieties and difficulty with it, it's totally doable. And you don't have to be some expert or some, whatever storytelling genius or whatever. You can literally just do it and have the silliest ideas. And as long as you're being collaborative and not trying to like win or rule over everyone else, it just go with the flow, and then find your groove.
Yeah.
And any other kind of cliches I can throw in right now.
So some tables will allow full-on strife or romance or whatever and have really intense roleplay going on, but I'm really happy that we all landed on and pretty much all mentioned that we were like, yeah, no, don't want that. Just we want to collaborate. We want to let each other have the limelight as such when it happens. Like set someone up for a win instead of a failure, and pretty much just cooperate on this thing. And that's, I think that's going to be one of the more important things that we can bring. It is to see, it is to let others see that, this is about collaborative storytelling. It's not about winning or losing. It's not about that. It's about an escape from reality and being able to step into a completely different world. So, but since we're on that topic, Finn has a question for us that was really supposed to be in last episode, but I was too late reminding people that there was a podcast. So he posted the question a bit too late, sadly, but we're going to take our time because it's a good question. And it really fits into this discussion and talk here. Finn says, although the rule of cool is always a top consideration, in your opinions, where's the line drawn between a cooperative fantasy storytelling experience with leeway for the players to shape events and the campaign becoming almost a wish fulfillment pulled in multiple directions? And what means should or could the game master use to ensure that it is a fulfilling and satisfactory experience for all, balanced between the two? So the way I read this question is, how do we keep it balanced between let's let people have a fun adventure and let's give the players all they want?
Mhm.
Like how do you keep that balance? And honestly, it's always hard.
Mhm.
It's always hard, and I think both of us have this kind of um not people pleasing exactly, but well actually no, people pleasing to a certain extent, where we want people to be happy, to have a certain level of being content in what is happening. Does it
Mhm.
always have to be a major win? No, but where do you like? How do you get to that point of finding that balance? That is always hard.
Mhm.
Um, and Finn mentioned rule of cool, and rule of cool is something that is, I would like to say, it is maybe the most powerful tool, but also potentially a world-ending tool, if not used right. Because if you allow the players to do whatever they want, then within certain bounds at least, um, then suddenly the world, like any of the rules, any of the settings, or so on, it just it doesn't matter, you know.
Mhm.
But if you restrict it too much, as in not letting the players have these victories where it matters, um, be that in, oh, this player wants to do something, but yeah, it's going to take the story too far or give too much of an advantage,
Mhm.
as opposed to this player wants to do something really cool once in a while, or this is going to shift the way the character does things, but not necessarily that it always ends up them doing it this way. Like this is a heroic moment, or oh, really cool role play moment, or whatever, you know.
Yep.
Like the balancing there is so hard. Um, so how do you balance wish fulfillment versus, you know, normal satisfactory gameplay?
Yeah, I think as you said, it's kind of tricky. Um, I think that if you have a good understanding with your group, then it's that there is an overarching story. There is a purpose. It depends, as well. If you're doing a one shot, you can give a lot more leeway, and if you're doing like a longer campaign or something, then you need to be a little bit more, have your lore and have the rules of how that setting and the world, the way you're running it, behaves, so that that is consistent, unless there's some sort of world shattering event, and then it affects everyone,
Mm.
the goodies and the baddies and everyone in between. So I think that the different ways I've seen it handled and the different ways I've chosen to handle it, I usually find a mixture of what I would call either the Chris Perkins way, which is just sure that just happens, and then there's a consequence somewhere down the line.
Mm.
Right? Oh, because you did this, this other thing happened or was set in motion or whatever, right? And they're usually to comic effect. And then there's what I would sort of think of as like the Matt Mercer way, which is his one of his sort of regular catchphrases, because his players are often trying to not push the boat, not in a mean way or whatever, but just in a comical sense, not necessarily trying to win per se, but maybe sometimes, because it can always get the best of us at any moment. And he'll do the classic sort of, well, you can certainly try.
Yeah.
So I've utilized both the Chris Perkins, yeah, sure, that happens, that's the thing, and I've used that in kind of more downtime sort of settings of like they really want a certain magical item or a certain thing, they want to put a certain twist on something, and it's usually not something overpowered, but like, oh, I'd really like this, but I'd like it to look a completely different way, or I'd like it to behave slightly differently in this circumstance, or it should have like a magical word that only I know. so that nobody can just pick this wand up and just have all the power that I have with it, kind of thing. Those kind of things. And then I've gone with yeah, sure, okay, that works the way you're expecting most of the time, or it gets this other property that you weren't. As a consequence of that, this other thing happens or something. Like maybe they get a strong magical item with a twist to it, but it's like it's one of two. You have no idea where the other one is or who has it.
Yeah.
And it can use that as well in oh yeah, that was a really cool idea, I'll have one of those for my bad guy too. That you can do that, but I usually do that in a way of like, they just think that now and they're paranoid. It'll probably never come back, but
Yeah.
but it could also be a thing of like, I don't maybe remember to use that either, but at some point in the future, maybe that one gets broken in a battle or stolen or whatever, and then they go on a quest to find its counterpart, or you can do things like that. So that's kind of more that Perkins kind of let them have whatever they want. They can have their cake and eat it, but there might be a consequence because maybe cake eating every day isn't so good for you.
No, at least it's diabetes.
Yeah. So and as I said, and then there's the other one where you just make it obvious, where you can certainly try that, and if that works, great. If you get a 20, we'll go with it, and if you don't, you'll lose your foot.
Yeah.
Because you're hovering over a trap you're trying to jump past or something, whatever. The other thing, like if it's in more of an extreme scenario or like more of a repeated scenario, then I probably wouldn't try and solve it within the rule set or the lore as such. I would be more inclined to say, hey, can we have a quick chat like after today's session or whatever? Because I totally get this and I love it, but it's disruptive. It's not working for me or whatever. So and even when you've got good players and experienced players, sometimes just for fun, people are trying to come up with the next cool thing, or the next really different or fun idea. And there's nothing wrong with that creative energy. But I've had a couple of moments where it's like, even with really good experienced groups, there's a little bit of overexcitement creeps in, and people get a little bit fixated on like, oh, but I really want this thing. And it's like, okay, we're 2 hours into a 5-hour session.
Yeah.
And we've now spent 30 minutes trying to work out how we can make this work without it. I'm exaggerating for the sake of the conversation. I wouldn't let it go that long typically, but let's, there's a party here, there's a bad guy, or I'll say, oh yeah, you can do this idea you want, but in order to achieve that, you've got to go and see the Dragonborn, and they live on the top of this floating island over here, and it'll take you 3 weeks travel.
Yeah.
And you can do it, but that means the dragon who said he was attacking your favorite town tomorrow, you will be the heroes who weren't there. Is that what you want? That kind of thing. So it depends. It's all about degrees of things, and whether you feel things are disrupting the flow or not. Yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
It's like I have a very good real life experience with just this kind of thing. I once had a DM or GM rather, I should say, Dungeon Master, Game Master, whatever. He said, whatever you know in real life, if you can apply that to your character, I will allow it. Which I was like, okay. So me, who's now just out of the army, I'm a combat engineer, you would allow me to know how to use explosives? And he was like, yeah. Okay. Then I looked over to the student of nuclear physics, and I was like, so, would you perchance, in theory, have the knowledge of how to build an atomic bomb? And they said, yeah, in theory? Cool. And then you kind of see the light of the eyes of the DM slowly
Yeah. Oh
kind of
dear, I haven't
go,
thought this through.
"Oh no, what have I
Yeah.
done?" And that's when the threat of a nuclear explosion was yeah, it didn't do the campaign well by all means, but yeah, it was like it was one of those things that we would never do. But the fact that they pretty much did that whole wish fulfillment thing, like
Mm-hmm.
if we wanted to, we could have gone out and done that. They could
Mm-hmm.
like the DM could probably have stopped us by saying no, it's impossible to get this sort of material. You don't know what to look for or anything. Like, well, I do know what to look for
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you said. And I was like, yeah, okay. Then it's going to create a weird not antagonistic feeling, but there's forever going to be this, oh, great. So my players know how to make a nuke. When are they going to deploy this, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know, not that that's hard in D&D. You just put a bag of holding inside of a bag of holding, and then ta-da, you're pretty much done. But no, it's one of those things where if I had made that promise or said that, it would have to be one of those things of, okay, you might have this knowledge, but access to these materials is pretty much gonna get you outlawed. You know, create that wall of like, you might set them up for a challenge, but at the same time it's going to create such an impossible living situation for someone
Mm-hmm.
that they don't want to pursue it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. And I think there's that reminds me of another couple of things, but it's like you one thing for me is rule of cool, yeah, but I'm much more focused on like, is this sort of enhancing our story together?
Yeah.
Is this a fun thing for the characters to be doing? Does it make sense within the story world that we're working within? You know, is it helping them advance their party towards the conclusion of the campaign in some way? Like, what's the benefit of this? And you know, it couldn't be the coolest thing someone's ever heard of, and kudos to people if they've got great knowledge or whatever. But you know, for me, there's always an element of like, why would your character know this? Like, you might
Yeah.
know it, awesome. You know, you might be an engineer or a nuclear physicist or whatever, but why does your little gnome hobbit fella, how do they get that knowledge, or why is that relevant to them? So for part of it for me would always be like, again, that goes back to the disruptive, or is it disruptive or is it helping us in what we're creating together?
Yeah.
Because if it's just disruptive, or it's like not really relevant or bringing anything to the story world that we're in, then I'm just like, why would you even want this? Like, I would get to the point where I'd say you're not playing your character anymore, and that's always a tough one to have out with people. That's why I would probably have a separate chat with them, because I would be at that point like, you are trying to win or achieve something here that is, I can't tie the connection to why that's relevant to your character at all and the story that we're playing. So is something missing from the story? Are there elements that you're lacking so that it's not fun in some way for you? Or, you know, like, I try and get to the bottom of like, why, because sometimes it's just people goofing off and they're just like, oh, but you know, this will just be funny. And I get that, but you know, you're sitting together for the purpose of telling this shared story with each other, not who can come up with the coolest you know, wand or whatever, you know. Unless the purpose of the story or the way you're at in the story right now is to find and make the coolest wand ever, that's cool. But then that's the GM's own fault because I've set that up as a task somehow or whatever, you know. It's a funny one, but I'm always curious. Like, is it because people are trying to win, or what's going on here? How did we get into this scenario and into this conversation? You know what I mean?
And this is why I say that it's important that we play our role.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
And as much as it's a cool idea to let people know what they know, it's like, yeah, let's not.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain systems where that makes more sense, you know, but maybe not in a fantasy setting like this.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless of that, it's an interesting question, and also I think it's an important question for other DMs to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Finn, for that very good question. Please let us know if you think we missed your question and we need to answer again.
And we'll sit down and we'll have a chat about it.
Yeah. We'll maybe make a roll or two to see who came out on top. But yeah, no, we are going to continue on towards the next little segment that I've called Little Victories, which is not the same as something to smile about, but Little Victories is something that we encourage everyone to share, not just at moments like these where, yeah, I want everybody to share their little victories. I want everyone to do that no matter what. If you have some reason to be proud, if that's anything from I got out of bed today to I managed to go for a walk 7 days a week this week, you know, it's you measure the victory for yourself, not for anybody else. I want to point that out. And if you have a sense of pride over it, that's when you get to share it. And I do believe they are important to celebrate. And I recently had a little victory. Because we have the pan tilt zoom cam for Live from the North now. And it comes with an API. Not just that camera, like but all cameras from that same company have an API where you can literally remote control it through scripts and HTTP calls.
Mm-hmm.
And a while back, I sat down and I tried to understand, and brain was just not in the right space. Like there were terms that I know I've used, I know I've been in touch with before, professionally and also hobby based. There were thoughts, there were ideas that I know I've all been in on at some point. But that day, it just didn't want to make sense at all, no matter what I tried. Like it was one of those I need a very chill day, and I probably shouldn't have been streaming that day. I'll be honest. So, but like nothing wanted to work, and I just felt dumber and dumber and more stupid because I wasn't able to ask the right question so that I could then make my brain go, that's how that works. But yesterday, while I was sitting down and streaming a bit and playing around, I thought, you know what, screw it. We're going to try one of these things. And what I did was I just took one of the scripts, a batch file. I looked through it first. I didn't just run it willy-nilly by all means. But I took one of these scripts that someone on Reddit pointed out that this is how I do it. They said to me, like, oh, okay. So I took it, I changed the necessary information, I ran it, and it worked. A batch file that I, like, that's something I haven't played around with for a long time. And I mean a long time. And it just worked, and I was like, suddenly, I'm Batman. Dot bats, right? No, never mind. Anyway, and it just like it was just this wonderful little victory that I desperately needed. Which now will, if you do a command on Live from the North, it runs that batch file, and then the PTZ camera then points to where that batch file set it to point. And it just felt nice. It just kind of felt like, I needed this. So yeah, that's my little victory.
Cool.
And this is my encouragement to everybody else to kind of go find those little victories, use them. And another little victory is that we have a new patron. I don't know if I mentioned this at the start. I think I did.
I don't think you did.
I don't.
Maybe you did.
I was supposed to. If I didn't, anyway, we have a patron. Exit.port. Let's try that again, shall we? Patreon.com/exit2port. Nailed it. First try.
Nailed it.
Patreon.com/exit2port. And regarding that, I just want to say, if anybody is wanting to support us through Apple, don't. Because Apple are starting to take an extra cut on that. So just, if you please, just go to the website, save yourself some money.
It's worrying that Apple need money that badly that they have to start taking a cut from things like that.
Yeah, it's kind of that's a different horse to whip. But a little thank you to our patrons, Maringana, Finn, and MrRoboto. MrRoboto, I've tried reaching out to you about what name you want me to use here. Normally we use the Twitch name that we know people by, but I sadly have to admit that I didn't quite recognize you instantly, so feel free to scold me in DMs. But yeah, and any of our patrons, if you just reach out to us and just let us know, hey, I'm a patron. Here's my question. We'll get a question to you, or we'll get the answer to you somehow, and yeah, we thoroughly do appreciate it. Thank you so much for choosing to support us. Speaking of which, we're almost up to being able to pay for 2 months now.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
So that's good. So thank you to patrons. Patreon.com/exit2port. And that made me smile, although that's not why I'm smiling and something to smile about. And I'm gonna go first because I like yours. And I'm just like, mine is just kind of self-bragging, which isn't really nice. But sometimes I need it. I've had a weekend of indulgence. So on Saturday, me and Mari went on a date to a little restaurant called Expedition. The Expedition. They're run by a couple of German immigrants. And they've been there for several years, and the food is so amazing. And me and Mari, like, we've pretty much been there every single time she's come visiting, and it is so good. It is so good. And the waiter, when he saw us, he was like, "Oh, welcome back." Because he recognized us. So, and I think it is because the waiter was German, and I said, "Oh, Mari's German," then they could have a conversation in German. And just made it so much nicer to kind of be there, and they're awesome. And we went for like this tapas plate thing as a starter where they use local ingredients, and it's so good. And then as mains, we got wild sheep entrecôte. Oh, so good. And then they had some Baja style fish tacos, which is made with local fish, and it's just, so amazing. But then we sat down and we wanted some dessert, and we couldn't decide, so we went with 3 separate slices of cake.
Ah, nice.
So we had a chocolate cheesecake, and then we had something called the chocolate deluxe, which was just super decadent slab of chocolate with some. Yeah, it was really good. But the star of the show was the carrot cake. Oh my god, so good. So good. And then on Sunday we went and saw Deadpool. So, yeah, it's been a very, very kind of self-indulgent, over-the-top, let's just enjoy life kind of weekend, and it's been nice.
Nice.
And looking back on it, it's going to be very nice. Even though we're actually going to Gamescom now. So. Which is indulgent in and of itself. But yeah, that's my something to smile about. And you just said cooperation at its finest.
Yep.
Care to share?
It's just an opportunity for me to give a shout out to lots of lovely people. But I'm fortunate enough at the moment, even though I might whinge about being busy and whatever else and timing, but I'm currently embroiled, whatever, in both the Atlas Dark Side roleplay, and of course the Eco event roleplay that we're doing as well. It's, you know, whatever, it's not a roleplay event, but anyway. And I just want to, you know, shout out to all the folks there, because the level of cooperation and support that it requires to do what the team have done in Atlas yet again, not their first rodeo as it were, but in creating just the most amazing town. Even I'm been able to visit for a few days because I did the weekend of Eco, but I've seen it through some clips. We had a couple of like prominent role players and the folks that kind of run and keep the lifeblood of the community going. Vista the Walrus and Vanalis both turned up at our port last night, and just seeing the compliments, hearing the compliments from the players, both talking on their streams and in character too. And then in addition, seeing like people's chats get super busy with compliments and how much they liked everything that's been done. And this goes out, as always, as I'm always careful to point out, it's not just the builders. Of course, that's the visual element that you see, but it's all the gatherers, it's all the morale and the team spirit of every single person being part of the company and the crew together that make these things possible. And it just really makes me smile to see, like, even in a dog of a game like Atlas, for me personally, other people might love it, and I'm not trying to get into a fight with anybody over it, but just for me, to witness, you know, over and over again, but in this case, like the pinnacle of just what they've achieved in a very short space of time, which is only possible. It's not a case of just like one or two people, you know, wearing themselves out or whatever, but just it's actually a bunch of people wearing themselves out. No, I'm just kidding. But just to see everybody like cooperate and see these results, and then watch them and listen and read chat comments and see all the kudos and stuff they get, because I'm always complimentary and keep, you know, trying to do what I can to keep morale up in and out of the game. But you know, it's nice to see people get that sort of recognition that they deserve. And then if that wasn't enough already to smile about, just looking at the Eco in this weekend, as we've already talked about it at length, so I'm not going to harp on about it, or try not to anyway, but just the looking at how people have embraced that, and in a non-roleplay event just kind of gotten into the spirit of really cooperating and following the guidance of the socialism team and that, and just making things possible. It's just incredible to see how people have responded. And you know, Damien's been doing an outstanding job there, just bringing, I think he's been talking to at least 6 different towns.
Oh wow.
So these are disparate groups of streamers, some of them role players, some of them not, and their supporting cast of people from their communities that they've brought in, moderators, whatever. So just like quite a random selection of people that are predominantly there to play Eco, just really getting together and helping each other. And my experience as well has been the same, because they've been talking about my character, and then when I go and meet people, they're like, "Oh, you must be Ivan," and and they're like, "Oh, we've heard about you and Barovia and all the rest of it," and just seeing the whole town come together, seeing all the people supporting one another with, again, that more socialist slant rather than shops and just buy stuff when I'm asleep and power gaming, the whole thing. There's some of that going on. You can't eliminate that, and it's not the purpose of that event either. Rather just to embrace everybody in the different ways of playing. But it's just an absolute genuine delight to experience all of that and see that. So I'm lucky enough to experience that twice in 2 different complete game settings with effectively, there's 1 or 2 players overlapping, but disparate groups of players. It's just an absolute joy, and it shows what gaming can be all about. Not about winning, but about the journey and the story and enjoying the time together and helping one another. And it's just awesome to witness and get to the luxury of being a part of. So that's something to smile about.
And the heretics we got to kill along the way.
Yeah, something like that. Sure.
No, that's amazing. No, it's always fun to hear about because like you are so directly involved in it. So hearing how you view it, and you're able to actually step back and see all the things that they collaborate on and do, and not just see, like you said, the forefront where the people who build are, but you actually see the people who gather, who create that opportunity. Because if the people who build were also the people to go gather, then you would end up having another Clanfolk incident.
Yeah, exactly.
Too many jobs on too few people, and it would just, like, it's one thing to have a slow burn, there's another thing to have a stall, so to speak. So yeah, no, it's very good to hear you speak about it in that way, and really awesome to hear that people are also embracing that,
Yep.
Which I want to encourage further. But that's going to be it for us for today, for August, for this month, really. We will be back in September with more questions and input from viewers. And who knows, maybe a newly started role-playing adventure. I don't know. We'll see. We'll just have to see. Stay tuned there, everybody. Stay tuned. But without further ado, it's going to be a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Grumbles.
Bye!
And let's exit to port in the next one.